Entering the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast. This for UFC Fight Night San Antonio. RDA versus Leon Edwards, welterweight division fight. We're going back to the great state of Texas, and there's a long history of really sketchy decisions, everything like that. I think people forget, the UFC's, constantly going all around to different places and stuff like that. And we kind of forget that that Florida's messed up too, but that Texas itself is very messed up. Cody Saftic, not in studio today. Chad Dow, not in studio today. It's me and just me in studio, but we do have my main man, Cody Saftic, on the line. How's it going, Cody?
Yeah, not so good. So the reason I'm not in studio is after my baby Aston lad got straight up starched, I don't even want to hear the argument for early stoppage, what was going to happen. Watching more Aston lad damage? Not interested. I'm actually just hanging out, got a pint of ice cream, a noose actually around my neck, and, I'm kind of beating off with my own tears as lubricant here, Paul, because that's not the outcome I wanted from my baby. But alas, we're in Texas, so I got to move on, and I got to get back to that clear mind thinking.
I guess so. That's interesting. It was very descriptive depiction of your state. You sound like what I would be like after Khabib lost, but Khabib doesn't lose, so we just move on from there.
Yeah, it was tough times. If I could try to give a visualization, I would say it'd be a lot like in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective after he realizes that he made out with Ray Finkel and he dives into a deep depression. That's pretty much how it's been, crying in the shower, really hot water, still not clean, and hopefully we got a 13-fight offering here, so let's make this right.
Well, you just cursed it by saying that. Obviously, one of these fights, one of the 13 will drop out. This is MMA that we're talking about. So,
and it's in Texas, so we'll see.
All right, let's talk about some giveaways. If anybody wants to get into a draw for $20 DK, what you got to do, give the episode a like. That's step number one. Nothing is possible without doing that. Step number two is leave your DK handle. And before we got on the air here, Cody revealed that he doesn't like a certain person on this card. And it's not even necessarily anything that they say or do. Just something about them rubs them the wrong way. So I'll let Cody kind of tell you about the rest of the giveaway and what you got to do.
Yeah, listen, there's always people that don't like Colby Covington. He runs his mouth, he talks shit, it's easy to hate the guy. Ben Askren, I didn't really realize how many haters he had until he took a flying knee in the face about 6 seconds in, and then you really realize how much people hate this guy. So I think there's a lot of guys, it doesn't have anything to do with them being bad fighters or good fighters. It's just for whatever reason, you don't like this guy. I don't know what it is. I don't like Leon Edwards. I cannot stand this guy. For a guy who routinely goes to boring-ass decisions, albeit against decent fighters, don't get me wrong, but for a guy that's just not a standout whatsoever in a division where you've got top talent who is willing to go out of the way and put it on the line, this guy routinely goes online and talks about how nobody wants to fight him. Newsflash, Leon. Nobody wants to fight you because you do nothing for their profile. You don't up their profile. You're a tough fight. I'm totally going to give you that. You're not a walkover. You do nothing to advance somebody's career. Nothing. It's an unwilling risk. So when he says, 5 guys turned me down, it has nothing to do with they think you're too good, Leon. It has everything to do with nobody wants to fucking fight your boring ass. So I'm talking his last couple fights. Gunner, split. Cerrone, he dominated him, but it's a decision. Peter Sabota, there was 1 second left in that fight. And then decisions against Barberina, Luque, Dominic Waters, Paul Pawlik. I am not a fan of this guy. He thinks he's the God's gift to the division. I believe he is the best British welterweight out there. But yeah, I'm really hoping RDA just sticks this guy back in the packing order and I don't have to hear from him anymore. So that was a long-winded why I hate Leon Edwards rant. And I can't quite put my finger on a moment that made me realize, fuck this guy. And he's been pretty good to the bankroll. But there's something about him. I don't like Leon Edwards at all. So that's my pick. And I'm sure everybody's got somebody whom they don't like for whatever reason. So leave that in the comment section. with a like of the show and your DK handle, and then get that $20.
Wow. Wow, there's some deep-seated
Paul,
hatred there.
I know all the guys that Paul seems to not like, but he doesn't have anything against the Hector Aldanas of the world, or Hector Urbina, or Anthony Christodoulou, or any of these putzes that we've had along the way. It's just there's a full realization that this guy sucks. Leon Edwards does not suck. He is a good fighter. I don't like him. If he was to get sparked with a flying knee, I would cheer. Everybody cheered and asked me to get sparked. I didn't cheer. This I would cheer.
We get it. All right, here's the deal. Tony Martin. Tony Martin's my guy.
Oh, yeah.
Something about the eyes. I don't know what it is. Either way, we're already 5 minutes into the show, and we haven't even talked. Well, we kind of talked about the fight. Main event, we have Leon Edwards taking on Rafael dos Anjos in the main event, obviously. 8,300 for Edwards, minus 130. As a favorite. Rafael dos Anjos is 7,900 and plus 110. So based on everything that you said about Leon Edwards and how much you hate him and how you hope that RDA pummels him, is it safe to say that you're backing Rafael dos Anjos in this match?
Yeah, I'm going to back Rafael dos Anjos. If it was a 3-round fight, I could definitely get behind Leon Edwards, even though I don't like the guy. I think that he does fight a sound game plan. He's long, he's rangy. I love the fact that here's a guy that has a good standard kickboxing base, but he'll mix in the wrestling. And I do believe him to have a high enough ring IQ that he's able to transition between his striking game and his wrestling game. That guy gives guys fits. If they want to strike with him, he's able to neutralize them and kind of slow it down. If he's not able to get the takedown, he's able to play that range game. Him versus Donald Cerrone, there's at least one time where here's a guy that can stuff your takedowns and then will prove to be a better striker than you. But Edwards is rangy. That is a 5-round fight. Edwards looks really good throughout the fight. He's fine. But Cerrone never really pressures him with his own takedown game. He does get one takedown, yeah, but for the most part, that was a lethargic Cerrone that didn't look overly motivated, and you could say whatever you want about his run afterwards, but I feel like Leon Edwards fought him at the right time. It's the fight with Gunnar Nelson. Here's a fight with Gunnar Nelson that in the first 2 rounds, he doesn't look great. He's just doing enough to get the win, so to speak. He's doing enough to be ahead in the scorecards. He's in England. It's his own home crowd. He's going to get the decision. He wins the first 2 rounds. In that 3rd round, Paul, he gets taken down. He gets mounted. Gunnar Nelson, I mean, if there's more time in the round, who knows what's going to happen. But it's also an insight of Leon Edwards is the hammer. Leon Edwards is always a hammer. Leon Edwards is either winning the striking exchanges or he's getting a takedown and ending up on top of you. But when is Leon Edwards not the hammer? Well, you'd have to go back to the Kamaru Usman fight. But against Usman, Edwards ain't going to get no takedown. It's Usman getting the takedown. And when Usman ends up on this guy, Edwards got no plan B. He's not some wizard off his back. He's not going to sweep. He's not going to get back up for the most part. He's a fish out of water. We know what he does well, but we also know what he doesn't do well. Gunnar getting them down in that 3rd round is at least a little bit of a glimmer of you can take this guy down. Once you get on top of him, what's he going to do? And you can hopefully tire him out. So now Rafael's got that same 5 rounds to deal with. If he's like Gunnar and he quite simply loses the 3rd round, it doesn't matter. We can go into the 4th and go into the 5th. Interesting to note, again, that fight is in England. It is his hometown crowd. And I thought he very easily won the first 2 rounds, yet one of those judges still gave the fight to Gunnar Nelson, resulting in a Leon Edwards split decision. So looking at Rafael dos Anjos' takedown defense on paper, it doesn't seem by the numbers like it's great. Dude gets taken out all the time. The problem is Dude gets taken out all the time and he works his way back up. He's always making you work. Going into the Kevin Lee fight, a lot of people are drawing this comparison of, well, Colby took him down and Usman took him down. Like, Kevin Lee is not that quality of takedown artist. He's not Usman. He's not Covington. He'll get a couple takedowns, but he's going to have to work to get them. You're going to get back up, and you're going to beat him in the striking exchanges. With Leon Edwards is a decent grappler, but he's not Kamaru Usman, and he's not Colby Covington. In fact, he's not even Kevin Lee. So to think that he's going to rely on his grappling for an extended period of time, I don't see it. Now, could he out-kickbox Rafael dos Anjos over the course of 5 and pick up decision? Yeah, it sounds crazy, but no doubt he could, just by playing that safe, stay on the outside, be the rangier guy. But with Rafael dos Anjos, he's a truck that always is picking up steam. He always seems to be getting better and better. 5 rounds he's got mastered. And the last wrinkle is that Rafael dos Anjos himself is a fantastic wrestler. You don't always notice it because they just put him up against the best wrestlers. But in Kevin Lee, you saw, once Kevin Lee starts to get a little bit tired, once Kevin Lee starts to get a little bit weary, this guy's going to reverse it on you. And he'll get the takedown on you. And when he gets on top of you, he's a world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who's heavy and has good ground and pound and has cardio. and is smart, and he's a veteran savvy guy that knows how to exert himself at the right time. And what I'm thinking with Leon is Leon could get the early part of the round. He could win the first round. He could win the second round. But at some point, he's going to get in trouble. And at some point, when you get in trouble with Rafael on top of you, it could be an issue. So now looking at the line, I see Leon Edwards as the favorite. Rafael is a slight underdog. I would take the poke on Rafael. Looking at the DraftKings lineup, I mean, geez, Leon Edwards is only $8,300. Flip side that, Rafael is $7,900. Even though this could be a 5-round decision, I'm thinking it's going 5 rounds. I think it's going to be a decision. Both guys are so well priced. You would want to hang your hat on one of them. I'm personally going Rafael, $7,900. Not a bad price, especially considering the guy averages just under 75 points. Even if he just gets into 75 points, it's less than I want for $7,900, but it would be okay. 5 rounds to work with. He can get takedowns. He can get striking. He can get a late finish. I'm going to go with Rafael Dos Anjos. But again, I'm not going to say it's stupid to go on Edwards, and I'm not going to say the best play could be just pass. But it's the main event. You want action. You got to pick a guy. I'll take RDA. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think you just stole all my talking points, basically.
I talked for a while.
You covered everything. It was like a 4-minute response. Essentially, I've got written down here. RDA's last 5 losses: Usman, Colby Covington, Tony Ferguson, Eddie Alvarez, when Eddie Alvarez became the champion, and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Like, he's fighting the elite of the elite at 155 and 170. So, you know, take like those types of L's, whatever, man. It's like when this guy, I'm not willing to put Leon Edwards in that category with those elite guys, those championship level guys. And honestly, I think Leon Edwards as a DraftKings play, not exactly a great play. Like, even if he wins a 5-round decision, I'm not convinced that he even scores 80 points. Like, he could just, you know, stay at the outside. Like, against Cerrone, what did he score? I think he scored like 67. I don't have it right in front of me right now, but it wasn't, you know, if you played Leon Edwards, like, he didn't kill you, but he wasn't winning you a big GPP or anything like that. He was kind of a bust. And that was a 5-round fight where he landed a lot of strikes. He dominated most of the fight, but he's just not a DK scorer. I don't see him securing takedowns on RDA. On the flip side, I do see if there's so many more paths to victory for RDA, whether it's the wrestling, the grappling, hell, maybe even outstrikes them. Like, him and Ferguson went toe-to-toe at 8,000 feet altitude when they went in Mexico City, and they didn't even tire, man. Like, and that was super, super high volume type of fight. Like, I like RDA everywhere here. So, obviously, the only problem is the size, and wrestling against a bigger guy, it's going to tire you out. He may not have to wrestle, though. He may be able to just beat Leon Edwards on the feet. So, I like RDA on DraftKings, and I'm going to be playing him straight up. It seems like the line is slightly moving towards Edwards right now. It only moved like 5 points from like when I made the boards type of thing, but ever so slight movement. Maybe you can catch a better line, but plus 110 ain't too bad.
Yeah, and just to cap off your point, actually, so yeah, with Rafael Dos Anjos, like Rafael Dos Anjos fights Robbie Lawler, he puts up 172 strikes in 5 rounds, significant strikes. Him versus Colby Covington, he actually outstruck him in that fight, 105 significant strikes. Him versus Tony Ferguson, 121 significant strikes. And look at his last fights. Him versus Kevin Lee, 4 rounds. Him versus Usman, 5 rounds. Him versus Covington, 5 rounds. Him versus Lawler, 5 rounds. There's no doubt about it that Rafael Dos Anjos is geared to go those rounds. Now, flip side to that, Leon Edwards. This is very interesting to me. Leon Edwards versus Dominic Waters. Okay, it went 3 rounds. Leon Edwards landed 24 significant strikes. Him versus Tumanov, which was late in the third, 16. Him versus Brian Barberina, 23. Him versus Peter Sabatopol, 42. And finally, his last fight, we got announced at 31. This guy has no ground impact. There's no damage that's happening on the ground. Yeah, he can get you down. He's a points fighter. He's a point fighter, like I mentioned earlier. He's got good at ring IQ. He knows how to get the win, but it ain't coming on volume. It's coming on a prompt to takedown at the right time to steal around, or I just did a little more work than you standing. But against Rafael, that becomes a problem. So I think we're on the same page. We'll go with RDA, and hope he comes through for us.
You got it. Let's move on down the card. We have Walt Harris taking on Alexei Oleinik. Walt Harris, 8,700 minus 150 favorite. Alexei Oleinik is 7,500 and plus 130. Interesting thing about this fight, this is a fight that you need on your roster, unless obviously this doesn't come through. But for this fight to get finished inside the distance, so no decision, it's minus 675. Somebody's getting a finish. Either Oleinik. Well, Oleinik can just throw heavies, maybe catch them. But ideally, obviously, Oleinik gets the fight to the ground, gets a submission on the flip side. Olynyk's gas tank. He's an old man. He gets pretty tired. Maybe he's shooting in for takedowns. Walt Harris shooks him off a bit, lands some of his murderous power punching. Like, this fight's getting finished. You got to end up picking a winner, at least in the big like $15 GPP. Who do you got in this one?
I got to go with Walt the Big Ticket Harris. And I mean, talk about a guy that's got all the skill and can't quite put it together. It might be Walt Harris. I mean, 6'4", former collegiate basketball player, 81-inch reach, was training out of ATT for a long time. He's back in Alabama now. But I mean, like, he's an athletic gift. He's got huge punching power, and he wasn't young when he came to the UFC, but you were expecting to see some development out of him. And I don't know if we really ever saw that. Now he's 36. In every other weight class, he'd be torched, but at heavyweight, because he's athletic, he'll be able to fight on a little bit. When you look at Alexei Oleinik, it's like Alexei Oleinik wishes he was 36. Like, 42, he's the slowest guy in the division, and he's one of the oldest guys in the division, if not the entire sport, at least in the UFC. Like, you don't see a whole lot of guys making it to that level and being competitive, and yet that's exactly what he is. But honestly, Paul, he's way too slow, and he'll be able to take advantage of guys that are equally as slow, that he can catch with some neck crank, some Ezekiel choke, some type of him squeezing on your neck. But for the most part, the guys that are going to be quicker than him, they're going to beat him with a punch. When you beat him with a punch, you're going to fold him over. So the biggest fight that I look at when I look at this one is the Curtis Blades fight. When Alexei Oleinik fought Curtis Blades, it was a travesty to watch, dude. It wasn't even competitive. As far as I was concerned, you got old man Alexei Oleinik. He needs to get this fight to the ground. He's not going to be able to take down Curtis Blades. Honestly, Blades is way bigger, way longer, way faster. He touches him up. The doctor mercilessly just steps in and says, hey, man, we can't let this continue. And they stop it like 2 minutes into the second round. After that, he fights Junior Albini, slow as fuck, not very good. He chokes him out. He takes out Mark Hunt. Damn, Mark Hunt's actually older than I am. Also, slow as fuck. But it's important to note, he gets beat up bad in that fight against Mark Hunt. Like, his leg's getting torched. He's getting touched up. And then he wings a punch that clips Hunt. Hunt had both of his hands down, hurts him, gets him to the ground. What's going to happen when you put a little squeeze on Mark Hunt's neck? Yeah, that's going to. And then the fight with Alistair Overeem, he didn't give a bad account of himself, but ultimately, he's a 5-minute fighter. He's got to put it on you in the first 5 minutes. If he can finish you in the first 5 minutes, you're done. You finish Victor Pest in the first round. You finish Albini in the first round. Finish Mark Hunt in the first round. It's that the longer you extend him, you're right, dude. He's old. He doesn't got the cardio to keep up anymore. He's got one knee. The thing is that he's got an unbelievable grip strength. If he gets a hold of your neck, you're in a lot of trouble. I would like to say Walt Harris could be in a lot of trouble if he gets a squeeze of his neck. I don't know that it'll get there. I think it'll be mostly Olynyk struggling to close the pocket. If he does get close enough to him, gets him up against the cage, I don't know that he peels him to the ground. Yeah, Walt Harris, we can all laugh about he got armbarred by Fabricio Verdum in a minute, but there's no shame in that. And then literally his 4 fights after that, they're all terrible. They really are. Mark Godbeard, which he got DQ'd, Daniel Spitz, Sergey Spivak his last time out, and the Arlovski fight was fucking embarrassing. It really was. There's no faith that can be gained by Walt Harris. Like, how could you get behind this guy? But minus 150 is a generous price. And then you look at his DK pricing, someone's getting finished. Someone's getting finished here. Either Olynyk's going to get him down and submit him, or Walt Harris is going to crack him and knock him out. But you want one side of it. And Walt Harris is like $8,700, so I think I would rather play the $7,500 Alexei Oleinik. But at 42, man, I've seen his best days. They're behind him. I don't want to see the one-trick pony. He's got a couple old greasy man tricks. But Walt Harris and his team should snuff that out. Keep the fight standing. Hurt him the same way that Blades did. And honestly, with Oleinik, you'll remember this from the Daniel Malanchuk fight. The longer he goes, he wears the damage, dude. Like, he slows and he wears it. And the takedowns are non-existent after that. So Walt Harris has got to be very careful, get out of the first 5 minutes, and then finish him after that. So I'll go with the big ticket Walt Harris. Although he's super untrustworthy, that's who I'm going to go with.
One thing I'm just going to say is that it is completely unfair for you to compare Curtis Blades to. It's hard when you're not in the studio for me to. I can't cut you off or anything because it'll just drown out your audio. And but like comparing Walt Harris to Curtis Blades and what those guys bring to the table, Cody. That's not even a fair. Like, you can't compare that matchup. I don't think Walt Harris is that good. I don't like. He's just pounding. He's pounding complete tomato cans in the heavyweight division. Whenever he fights anybody of any sort of talent, he looks out of place. Now, Alexei Oleinik is a 42-year-old former middleweight who needs to get the fight to the ground. He's taking on a much bigger opponent. I do actually think Olynyk is a nice DK punt in the.
He's a good. Yep.
He's a nice DK punt in the big huge contests where you need like massive scores. It's obviously not really a cash game type of play. This guy can get knocked out. His floor is 0. His ceiling's about 100. So I'll probably be playing some Alexei Oleinik. I think I'm gonna fade Walt Harris, but I can't really fault you for fading a 42-year-old Alexei Oleinik either. Let's move on.
That's the thing with Olynyk. I've always felt like he punches above his weight. Like every time he wins a fight, it's like it's not exactly expected. It's like, oh damn, Olynyk had one more left in him. But my last point really on him is that I remember when he lost to Chael Sonnen at 185 pounds, and now he's ballooned up. He's 6'1", weighs in at like 235. Man, Walt Harris is 6'4", 260. Like, God, now I get it. Olynyk, he's made a career out of subbing big dudes. I totally get it. But I just got to feel like at 42, the well's starting to run dry.
We got Greg Hardy taking on Juan Adams. Both guys 8,100. I guess slight edge to Juan Adams, who's minus 115. Favorite Greg Hardy is minus 105. Another heavyweight fight where you probably need the winner. And it's a coin. This is about as much of a coin flip as you can ever get. But for this fight to get finished inside the distance, minus 515. And you have low-level heavyweights duking it out. It's going to be sloppy. Juan Adams going into his last fight there against Arjun Buller talked about his collegiate wrestling pedigree and yada yada yada.
Can't take me down.
It's funny how way back when the UFC posted a clip saying that Juan Adams was the TJ Dillashaw of the heavyweight division. I think he's got a quote tweeted saying like this aged terribly, but it's also aged terribly in the and he's obviously referring to the steroids the EPO that TJ Dillashaw was taking, but it's also aged terribly in the fact that like this guy had no gas after one round against Arjun Buller. I guess he technically did enough in my opinion to win the fight, but like I wasn't out there screaming robbery. He looked completely out of place. That wrestling pedigree, I'm very dubious of it. Give me Greg Hardy. I think these guys are going to be swinging. I don't really trust Juan Adams wrestling to do anything spectacular here, and I think it's going to be sloppy, and I think Greg Hardy's going to catch him. What's your take?
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way around. I'm going to go with Juan Adams. Greg Hardy, listen, I get people don't like him like personality-wise. I like watching the guy fight, dude. He comes out, he throws hands. There's one of two ways this is going to go. He's going to touch you and you're going to absolutely topple over. Or in the Alan Crowder fight, yeah, he himself got massively gassed and then got DQ'd. Kind of looked like he wanted a way out. Regardless, I just think he got really tired and made a mistake. So now you got perfect matchmaking here, realistically. You got Greg Hardy. He's a freak athlete. He's a massive man, 6'5", comes in at the heavyweight limit of 265. And who are we going to match him up against? Juan Adams, also 6'5", also comes in the limit at 265. Both guys are just massive freak heavyweights, and both guys I think there is some upside there. The difference here is that one guy's a football player who had all of his eggs in his basket as being a football player, and then once that didn't pan out for him, decides to transition to MMA. He's 30 years old, and he's playing behind the 8-ball here, man. All of his amateur fights, he smokes the guys fast. His first 3 pro fights, he smokes the guy fast. They throw him into a UFC fight against Alan Crowder here, Paul. Alan Crowder. He should have just knocked out Alan Crowder in the very first round. Unfortunately, Alan Crowder proved to be a step too much for him. He tired. He got taken down. He did not look good. And then finally, Crowder himself tired. It's an illegal knee, whatever. Smoliakov, there's literally nothing positive I could take out of that. We all knew that was going to happen. And it happened exactly the way we thought it would. Smoliakov rolled over as he tends to do. But now they're throwing in with a legitimate prospect. People liked Juan Adams. When Juan Adams won on the Contender Series, it looked like this guy could be a promising heavyweight. He comes to the UFC. His fight with Chris De La Roca, fuck, what a learning experience that was for him. But again, you see the progression. Now he comes against Arjun Bular. Arjun Bular is an Olympian. He wasn't very good at the Olympics, but he went to the Olympics for Canada. And the guy knows how to wrestle. And the guy's like 3-1 in the UFC, or he's 2-1 at the time. He ends up going 3-1. But he got a good little record on him too. Like he's still the favorite over Pollart. People like this guy. People are backing him. He gets robbed against Pollart. Not a huge robbery. I mean, he fought a bad fight, but he should have still won the fight. And then just based on that one thing, we got him as an underdog against Greg fucking Hardy. Like, it's not an underdog. It's pretty much an even money fight. Like, I do get it. But I'm not understanding it. Listen, Juan Adams has terrible cardio, no doubt about it. But in the Chris De La Roca fight, he tires after one, fights through to the end. Against Arjan Pollart, he's tired after one, but he fights through the end. Those are all learning experiences. He's 27 years old. He's got to get rounds in him in order to develop, and I feel like that's what he's doing. When you're Greg Hardy, it's like you're 30. You go out, you knock guys out. Has he been working on his cardio? I don't know. He got massively tired in his fight as well against Crowder. So to think both guys aren't just going to get tired after one round, crazy. The other thing is we always talk about Hardy's punching pattern. Oh, dude, this guy hits so hard. He landed flush on Crowder, didn't put him down. When he lands flush on bums, they go down. Are we considering Juan Adams a bum? I don't really think so. I mean, he's been hit flush. He's taken punches well. He was undefeated prior to that one loss to Arjan Pollart, which you can make excuses for him, really. It wasn't the worst fight, and he probably should have won. 27, he's from Texas. So, I mean, if this fight's close, they're not fucking giving it to the former Cowboy wife beater. They should give it to our boy, the Kraken, Juan Adams. So, anyways, what I'm getting at is close fight. I get it. Heavyweight, I get it. And Greg Hardy's a phenomenal athlete. I do find it difficult to pick bums and try to fade Greg Hardy because he's so much faster and he's such a better athlete and he's working at a top gym. He's going to get these guys. Juan Adams is not the fight for him right now. That's not the fight. This wasn't a bum to help raise your profile and build you along. This is a guy that wrestled in college. This is a guy that can take a punch. This guy that is 6'5" with a long reach. So I think he's going to give him trouble. I think he's learned more from his UFC tenure than Greg Hardy has from his own respective one. And even though I sure the UFC would like Greg Hardy to win, I think Juan Adams is just like a little too much too soon. The one thing I will say with Juan Adams, and I highly disagree with Juan Adams on this, is that because he cut so much weight to make 265, his whole thing is like after weigh-ins, he goes and he pigs out. I'm talking cookies. I'm talking Twinkies. I'm talking every pastry under the sun. The fucking guy just pigs out. And then he shows up to fight night, cramps up after the first round, and shits the fucking bed. He has no cardio. He can't fight more than 5 minutes. And I think it has something to do with the fact that he's an idiot. He just eats the worst shit for you because he spent a whole camp starving himself. I don't think he's a high-level athlete. I think he's a decent fighter. I think he's a big guy. I don't think he's a real, true-bred athlete. Whereas Greg Hardy is a true, to-the-bone athlete, but not maybe a fighter. So I've got an elite fighter, not an elite fighter. I got a fighter versus an elite athlete. And I would normally take the athlete. But because the athlete's a little green, I think the fighter Juan Adams is going to pull this one out. But as far as like projection, if this was a draft and I would want to say who's going to be better in 5 years, even though Hardy's 3 years older, you could build around Hardy. He could get better. Juan Adams seems like he's his own worst enemy, and he will plateau.
All right, we got to get through these fights because we're almost half an hour in, and we've only went through the first 3 fights. Let's move on. We got Dan Hooker versus James Vick, 8,500 Hooker, 7,700 Vick, minus 125 is Hooker as a favorite, and Vick can be had for plus 105. Who you got?
Yeah, so we talked about the opening of the show of like people that you don't like, fighters that for whatever reason I can't figure it out. I don't like people don't like James Vick, man. He talked a pile of shit and then got posted out by Justin Gaethje. He follows that up with his fight with Paul Felder, in which he looked terrible. And now it's like you do not hear this guy open his mouth whatsoever. It seems like it was a very humbling experience. And even though he had all the skills in the world to make it, at a high level, he's tall, huge for the division, good boxing background, good submission defense. I could see why people would think that James Vick is going to progress to be a top-level prospect. And maybe he still will. But I think you really saw he bit off more than he could chew. He got himself in the deep end, and it went against him. Now you've got 32-year-old James Vick, who, by the way, this weight cut is not getting any easier, against Dan Hooker, who, again, is outside of that Edson Barbosa fight. This guy was looking pristine. He was looking on a good shape. Smokes out Ross Pearson, who nobody really knocks out Ross Pearson. Mark Diakase finishes him. Jim Miller finishes him. Gilbert Burns finishes him. And unfortunately, runs into Edson. Now, the thing that I can take away in the Edson Barbosa fight, like he literally took like a a superhuman amount of damage. So I don't know if that's going to affect him none. I don't know if it's going to change the psyche or if it's going to change him whatsoever. I don't know. But as far as the matchup goes itself, Vick's going to give him a lot of problem on the outside, and it's going to be Hooker's responsibility to close that distance, get a hold of him, and do something. As much as I don't love going with Vick, 2-fight losing streak, not a huge fan of his. I've seen better days. If I can get better dog money on him, it's plus 105 right now. It opened up a little bit better. Yeah, the thing with Hooker is that Hooker stood all the way to the outside and let Barbosa teed up on him, and he literally didn't have a plan B. He stood there and got teed off on. He tried to make it exciting. He tried to show people that, he's got heart, and he does. And he's got one hell of a chin, Paul. But ultimately, he didn't have a plan B. There was no adjustment that could be made to that. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think Vick will stand on the outside. He's got a decent kicking game. He'll just eat him up with the jab. And if it's a close fight, and I do see this as being a close fight, he's the fucking Texecutioner in Texas. You think they're going to give it to the Aussie Dan Hooker? No fucking chance. So, close fight. Vick does enough with the jab, with the straight right, stays on the outside, chips away at him, picks up the decision. I'll take James Vick.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I don't know. I just don't really want to rely on James Vick. I just don't want to rely on that durability. The guy's just got the tall man defense. The guy just takes absolute heaters to the chin. I totally understand your Dan Hooker had no plan B, hung out on the outside against Edson Barbosa, but Edson Barbosa's leg kick game is the elite of the elite. He's going to have to fight through those jabs. I'm going to lean towards Dan Hooker to win even a decision in this fight. But I think it's pretty competitive across the board. We move on down. We've got Alexander Hernandez taking on Francisco Massaranduba Trinaldo. Hernandez, 8,900 minus 185 favorite. Trinaldo is 7,300 and plus 160. Trinaldo is supposed to have 3 fights in the last year. All 3 of them have been canceled. His opponent pulling out. There was like Makhachev and then 2 other ones I don't have written down in front of me right now. So he's having troubles getting fights. Obviously, Alexander Hernandez, they kind of came to a screeching halt. The hype train was taken down by the Cowboy. He's kind of he's a victim of his own success. He comes in, massive underdog against Benny Dariush, knocks him out in the first round, looks amazing. Second fight that we see him, he takes on Olivier Aubin-Mercier. And we saw that, if the striking isn't exactly, plan A, he can move to plan B. He started getting takedown. He landed a bunch of takedowns, top control, pretty dominant performance there as well. And then he kind of, I guess, he even admitted on Ariel Helwani's show this week that he kind of just bought into his own hype. And he figured, if I touch anybody, they're going to go down. Obviously, the Cowboy didn't go down. And Donald Cowboy Cerrone absolutely chewed him up. He seemed like he was in a pretty good space about it. Massaranduba's getting older. This one's a pick'em for it to go to decision. I don't really know whether it's going to go to decision or get finished inside the distance. Trinaldo is tempting on DraftKings as a $7,300 flyer. The guy's a Brazilian kickboxing champion. Maybe he's just got the advantage everywhere in this fight. I'm not entirely sure. I'm scared to bet Hernandez at this price, to be perfectly honest. What's your take?
Yeah, you know what? I had to actually out myself right here because I had seen some talk on the line on social media where people are like, "Why does everybody like Hernandez? Like, why do people back Hernandez? Like, there's some glaring holes in his game, and yet he comes in as these big favorites." Like, yeah, I'm one of those guys. I like Hernandez. I like everything this kid does. And yeah, he bought into his own hype. And yes, these young fighters are all going to experience humbling experiences that you would only hope will make them better fighters. But he's 26 years old, Paul. Like, to think that this guy just got humbled by Donald Cerrone and that's the end of him is ludicrous. I have to assume that changes are going to be made. The other thing is that, you hear him in that press conference before the Cerrone fight. It's like, yeah, dude, this guy believes his own shit, man. Like, he's talking like a fucking idiot, completely overlooking what is a first ballot Hall of Famer despite never winning a world title in Donald Cerrone. And, like, you're going to disrespect this guy? Also, like, I don't know, man. Like, it was just a bad spot for him. He got fucked up. He got seriously humbled. He got outstruck. He got beat up everywhere. Takedowns weren't working for him. Striking wasn't working for him. You need to learn from this. The difference there is that Cerrone's 35 years old. You know, Cerrone's a vet. He's been around the block. He's experienced things. Whereas Alex Hernandez is a young kid. He's in his mid-20s. You know, yeah, he bought into his own hype. He had, outside of a split decision to, like, I think it was Jamal Emmers fucking 6 years ago, the kid had never lost to anybody. He beats Beneil Dariush. Don't you think everybody was telling him how fucked he was when he took that fight? And he starches him in like 40 seconds. Obey Mercier is a black belt and a judo black belt too. He takes him down 4 times. He dominates him on the ground. And then going to the Cerrone fight, yeah, you think, oh, the UFC's giving me a layup here so I can progress my career. Unfortunately, that wasn't the way it is. But no doubt the UFC says, hey, guys, we're going to Texas. Who are some of our Texas fighters? Well, we're going to put, you know, that's why I think obviously James Vick's on the card. Juan Adams from Texas, he's on the card. It's a little flavor with Craig Hardy, perfect. Alex Hernandez is another Texas boy. He's a Texas boy with a bright future, 10-2, 26 years old. We threw him into the line a little too early. Let's reel him back a little bit and build him back up. Trinaldo's 40. And yeah, you're right. His last 3 fights have fallen off. And they tried to book this fight already once. Him and Hernandez were supposed to fight, and then I want to say Hernandez got rebooked, and I'm going to say he got rebooked against Donald Cerrone. So they yanked that fight across, but since then he got the Cerrone fight. He's had 1 fight this year already, and you've got Master Nduba sitting on the sidelines, not getting any younger. When you look at Master Nduba, it's like, yeah, he's got the kickboxing. He's really hard to take down. He's got some BJJ. But, like, the guys that are able to keep him on the outside and just, like, outpace him, you know, James Vick, normally that one comes to mind. You can make this guy pay. He's slow, he's lethargic, but he's got a great skill set, and he knows how to use that skill set. You can still get that win, and I'm not writing him off. I look at the Evan Dunham fight and think, fuck, you know what? Evan Dunham's hard to put away, and he crushed him with the body, and could he go out there and hurt Hernandez, hit him with the right hand, hurt him with the body, make this kid second-guess himself? Absolutely. The difference there is that Evan Dunham knew in his head going into that fight the end was coming up. You know, he knew going into that fight, I don't have a whole lot of these fights left in me, and the end of the road's coming up. And what happens? He goes out, he loses to Francisco Trinaldo, he retires right afterwards. Whereas, like, you caught a guy in the back 9. This kid is not in the back 9. This kid's hungry. This kid's coming for you. I think Hernandez is a little sharper everywhere. I'm not like over the moon. I love this. This is my pick of the week. But it opened at 175. I thought that was right on. It got to 200. I was passing it. And I see it's back down to 185. So for 185, something I'm willing to play. The DK side of it, I'm a little bit weary just because Hernandez is 8,900. He'd have to go out there and throttle Trinaldo. Mm-hmm. And what's one thing we know about Trinaldo? Guy's a savvy, durable, old veteran. Like, he'll find a way to slow down the action. He'll find a way to kind of grind you to a halt. And to think that you're going to spark him and score 100 points, not that likely. So, yes, I like Hernandez. But I'm hoping that the people that also like Hernandez will follow him on DK. I'll pass it and try to get them that way.
Ben Rothwell takes on Andre the Pitbull Arlovski in the heavyweight division. This is kind of the fight that maybe in the heavyweight division that you don't necessarily have to roster. Ben Rothwell is 9,000 and a minus 190 favorite. Andre Arlovski 7,200 and plus 165. How do you see this one shaking out?
Yeah, well, once upon a time, I believe, I want to say it was 2008. I think it was 2008. It was at a First Affliction show, right? Little Cody thought Ben Rothwell was going to fuck Andre Arlovski up. He was the IFL champ. He had beaten Roy Nelson. I remember he beat Rico Rodriguez, who at the time wasn't completely shot. He beat a couple of good guys. I thought, you know what? Old Andre's getting old, and my boy Ben Rothwell, Big Ben, he doesn't like being called that anymore. I met him one time. He was like, yeah, I'll let you say it, but don't fucking be telling people that's my name. I don't know why. It kind of always seemed like he was Big Ben Rothwell, right? But he got fucked up by Arlovski. And that was the first time I noticed, Paul, that even though this guy's a hulking big heavyweight, he is extremely slow. And that's going to be an issue because Arlovski, he's fast. He's fast as a heavyweight. Mm-hmm. He's mobile. That's literally made an entire career on being a mobile heavyweight. The thing with Ben Rothwell is that Ben Rothwell found his legs, went on a little run, smoked Brendan Vera, smoked Alistair Overeem, smoked Matt Mitrione. He choked out Josh Barnett. Like, I get most people aren't grappling fans. Like, to even fathom the idea of somebody choking out Josh Barnett is fucking insane to me. So this guy did it. Only then he does it positive for steroids. Mm-hmm. And it really makes you realize Why did this guy who was really slow all of a sudden have infinite cardio and was really light on his feet? Then he gets suspended. Then he serves nearly 3 years. It was almost a 3-year suspension, right? That JDS fight was like 2016.
Yep.
He comes back to fight Blagoy in 2019. And the Blagoy fight, he fought the world's worst game plan. Blame it on ring rust, which you could. Blame it on the fact that, he's now coming back to the sport at 37. There's a lot of things you could blame, but ultimately he's way too slow. He sat in front of Blagoy. He let Blagoy dictate all of the action, and Blagoy fought a terrible fight. But he routinely beat Ben to the punch. I cried robbery because I had Ben Rothwell in lineups. I had bet him, but it was not a robbery. He fought a stupid fucking game plan, Paul. He really did. Ultimately, that's what it came down to. He's too slow, and he fought a bad game plan. So yes, should he beat Andre Arlovski? You would think so. There's pretty much no heavyweights I'm interested in betting Andre Arlovski over. Like I'm not sold on the guy. But there's no doubt, dude, his chin isn't as bad as we thought it used to be. And he's mobile. He can kind of pick away at you. He doesn't look great. He's on a 4-fight losing streak, technically. But it was a split against Augustus Sakai. It's a split against Walt Harris. It's a somewhat competitive fight against Shamil Abdurakhimov. His fight with Tai Tuivasa, not like he got blown out. So, yes, there's a lot that you could say. Why would I want Andre Arlovski? 4-fight losing streak. He's 40 years old. All these decisions are going against him. But I'm just looking at this as a style clash. I'm not looking at this one particularly as recent history. I'm looking at it as the fact that Andre Arlovski's been fighting these type of fights, and he's been losing the decisions, but he's showing that he's not done all the way yet. He's still serviceable. He's still got a couple tricks up his sleeve. Since he left Jackson's and went to ATT, they got this guy fighting smart. And Smart should win some fights. He hasn't been winning, but he's not getting knocked out. He's fighting good game plans. He's just not getting the decision. This is the kind of fight, you fight that good game plan, you stay on the outside, you pick away at this guy, you could win. You could. So, again, I'm looking at it as strictly on the pricing side of things, and this is a card where I'm not backing a ton of dogs, but we got two old, middling-ass heavyweights who are definitely on the back, they're on the back end of their careers. Geez, Arlovski at 165, it looks appealing. And money's coming out on Rothwell, so you can wait it, get a little bit of a better price. I'm not seeing it. I'm really not. People keep talking about that, the 10-finger guillotine. Like, yeah, a couple guys shot in on him, and he snagged it up. But Arlovski's not going to shoot in on him. So throw that out the window. We got a striking battle. We got a striking battle between a guy that's flat-footed, both feet are planted, and he shakes his hands in front of you, versus a guy that's got sharp technical boxing that should hit him and move, hit him and move, hit him and move. That's how he won the last time. They're both older. But fuck, man, do it again. Do it again, Andre. Your job's on the line. Pull one out for little Cody. Everyone's going to be happy. So give me the dog play on Andre the Pitbull. And, fitting if you're going to take a dog, you might as well take the Pitbull, right? Ha, ha, ha.
That was a dad joke. Nice dad joke there. I'm with you, actually. I think if I don't know if I'm going to make a play on, maybe if the price gets even more, if it gets up to like plus 200, I'll take Andre Arlovski. I don't see a prop right now in front of me for Arlovski by decision. That would be interesting. I actually do think we see kind of like a stinker heavyweight tilt between these two. So I guess only time will tell. We got Alex Caceres taking on Steven Peterson. Caceres 8,800 minus 150 favorite. Peterson 7,400 and plus 130. Caceres holds a 4-inch reach advantage in this spot. Maybe he can kind of keep Ocho on the outside. We saw Ocho Peterson kind of struggle against Luis Pena that way, but Pena actually took him down a whole bunch. Caceres is a tough guy to understand in general. He's like 14-12. Guy typically kind of fights towards the level of his he fights at the level of his competition every single time he's out there. Pretty well rounded, decent striking, light on his feet. Not exactly a great wrestler. Not a world-class grappler, but he can hang down there. It is Steven Peterson. He fights out of Fortis MMA, so he's like out of Dallas. He's the hometown guy. They've been keeping this guy around, even though he's been taking a bunch of L's. This may be the one spot where finally Ocho comes through and gets a decision victory. What's your take?
Yeah, you know what? I think this is kind of a tough one to chalk up. I like Peterson just because of his style. Like, you've never seen a boring Steven Peterson fight. He always brings it. His striking is atrocious, but how are you not going to cheer for the dude who marches forward with his chin out and both hands by his hip, swinging bombs? Like, it's who he is. He's been a Texas fan favorite for a long time. The guy that people have wanted to see make that progression to the next level. It just didn't look like he was really, at that next level. But, you have a decent fighter on Contender Series, and now they need a guy, and all of a sudden Steven Peterson's in the UFC, and not a great run, man. I mean, losses to Brandon Davis and Luis Pena, the latter not that big of a deal. The former, again, not a big deal, but, like, that's the lowest level you're going to fight in the UFC is Brandon Davis. You got a problem. Beats Matt Bessette. Again, we're talking about those lower-level guys. So I think it's safe to say we know where Steven Peterson's at. The thing with Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres, is that it's been so hard to gauge where this guy's been at his entire career. He legitimately picks up big wins. He's got a win over Sergio Pettis. He's got a, I want to say big wins. He wins fights. He wins some fights. Sometimes you think he's the dog. He comes through. But fuck, is he ever inconsistent, man? And I mean, losses to Masanori Kanehara and Jason Knight, and that split in China over Gwen Wang, like, his fight with Martin Bravo is a split. His fight with Rolando D. I remember, I think D, I want to say he stopped after 2 rounds. They stopped it. But, like, D's coming on, dude. So, like, what's Bruce Leroy's problem? It's not his camp. He's in a camp, an MMA lab that's known for getting these guys ready, and they're consistent across the board, and we know their skill set, but, like, he doesn't fit that mold. He's got a strange kicking game standing. His grappling's really not that bad. It isn't, but because he kind of has that long, tall, lanky frame for featherweight, he's easy to take down. He doesn't always have the most urgency, so guys outwork him a little bit. And that's where it becomes a problem, is that Steven Peterson is all work rate. He's not exactly a finesse fighter, but he outworks you. And he's going to be coming after Bruce Leroy. Bruce Leroy, meanwhile, sometimes relies on that finesse ability to just, he believes he's winning, he's landing some fancy kicks, he's got some takedowns. He believes he's getting the victory, so he takes his foot off the gas a little bit, and then he ends up losing or being in entirely too close of a fight. So you made the best point out. You said Bruce Leroy tends to fight to his opponent's level, right? And that's something you don't want to do against Steven Peterson, because he's going to try to make it a low quality, not quality, it's going to be a fun fight to watch, but it's not going to be the most technical fight. It's going to be a wild brawl. You don't want to wild brawl him. You don't want to fight to his level. You want to fight smart. Stay on the outside, use your kicking game, use your reach, fight him, and then if he gets too brazen, he gets too bold, and he comes after you, put him on his back. But Bruce Leroy tends to invite those type of fights, and if you're going to give Peterson exactly what he wants in front of his hometown crowd, where they're going to be popping every time he lands a punch, and they're not going to give a shit whenever you get him back, it's a problem. So again, if I'm looking for dogs with a chance, I look at Arlovski and I think, geez, Arlovski got a chance. When I look at Peterson's got a chance. He's got a chance by virtue of Bruce Leroy is 14-12. And let me tell you something, Paul. He's done that to himself. He is the definition of a 50-50 fight. He is the definition of he could be fighting anybody on the roster, and there's a legitimate case for dog or pass. Bruce Leroy should be bet as a dog. He should never be trusted as a favorite. I don't trust him as a favorite. I wouldn't touch him as a favorite. I would say pass on this fight, but I'll take my own advice and say dog or pass. It's Peterson or nothing.
And last thing I'll say on that one, I just think, Peterson just has a higher ceiling, in my opinion. I guess Andrei Arlovski, I know we go way back. He knocked out like Travis Brown, but most of the fights that Andre gets into now, it's like he's not scoring very much. He scores maybe 50 in a victory. It's like that's just not going to cut it. Steve Peterson, amped up crowd, taking on Bruce Leroy, who sometimes could get dragged into a firefight as well. I just think he's got a higher ceiling in terms of scoring there. So that's the last thing I will say on that. We move on. We've got Irina Aldana taking on Raquel Pennington. Aldana minus 150 on the betting line. Pennington is plus 130. Aldana 8,400 to Raquel Pennington's 7,800. What you take here?
Yeah, the one thing I'll never bet on as long as I live is an unmotivated fighter. And until Raquel Pennington shows me otherwise, that is a unmotivated fighter. I feel like her best days are behind her, and it's crazy. I know there's a lot of people saying, dude, 3 fights ago, she smashes Miesha Tate. Like, and then what are the last two losses are what? Nunez and Jermaine Durand? Like, how are you going to say this is an unmotivated fighter? How are you going to say this is not a fighter that's at the top of the game? She's going from fighting two world champions, technically JDR is a world champion. She's gone from fighting two world champions to Irene Aldana, and you're not going to give her a second look? But it's the way in which she loses those fights. I mean, obviously the fight with Nunez is a type for anybody, and she lasted way longer than any of Nunez's opponents. So you should take a positive away from that. But trying to quit on your stool after 4, listen, I'm not a fighter. You're not a fighter. Most of the people listening to the show aren't a fighter. So it's hard for us to say, what a fucking quitter, blah, blah, blah. We're not in that position. We've never been in that position. We're never going to be in that position. But there has to be something said for somebody that's trained their entire career to fight for a world title, and you're sitting on your stool. There's 5 minutes left. You fought for 20 minutes at this point. There's 5 minutes left. You're not hurt. You're not tired. You just don't want to fight anymore. And then the fight with Jermaine Durand to me, it's like, yo, grappling all day. You and I both know you can't fucking strike with this bitch. So don't strike with her. Take her down. That's your game plan. That's the way to beat her. The blueprint's been made on how to beat JDR. It's also been written how to lose to JDR, stand in front of her. She doesn't commit to the takedowns. She doesn't commit to – she used to be fierce. She used to be tough. She used to be big for the division and willing to come right through you. She's got wins over Jessica Andrade and Miesha Tate. Like, how much more could you want on the resume? But there's also a lot of periods of, geez, you know, she gets stuck in a lull. She's not super athletic. She's not super fast, but she gets stuck in a lull in front of you. That's where I'm starting to worry here. I don't love Irene Aldana. Irene Aldana is not exactly a play I run towards, especially because she's the favorite in this spot. But, like, she's longer, she's rangier, she's got a much better stand-up game. She's the better boxer. That's it. I don't want her see her kick a whole lot because maybe that's how she ends up on the ground. But if Raquel doesn't go to the game plan of bully this girl against the cage, wear her down, peel her to the ground, she's going to have trouble. And I get that she's fought 2 world-class opponents her last time out. I think Raquel Pennington has seriously been sold as somebody who is a lot better than she is. I truly do believe that. And so the last point there is she had a split over Betchka Hayes. She looked terrible. She won over Elizabeth Phillips, and it was a decision. Like, Elizabeth Phillips has a losing record as a pro right now and fights on the fucking worst regional scene you can imagine. But the fight with Miesha Tate, dude, that's what everybody keeps coming down to. Like, yo, how good did she look?
Miesha Tate was on her way out the door at that point too, right?
Miesha retired right after the fight.
Yeah, of course. She was on her way out.
She was done too, and Raquel pulled one over on her. But now the impression I get from Raquel is that she too is done. Now she's only 30, and she does train at a good camp, and there is some skill there. But I'm not getting that give out of her. I'm not feeling that drive out of her. And whereas I think Irene Aldana is definitely a winnable fight for her, she's younger. She's getting on a roll. No, actually, she's not younger. What am I talking about? But all the same, she's on a 3-fight winning streak. She's making some progression. I don't think it's crazy to think that Raquel beats herself. Raquel beats herself by not pressuring her, standing in the middle of the ring, and letting Aldana dictate the pace from the outside. If that's the case, Aldana's going to win a decision. It's going to be greasy. It's not going to be the most exciting thing in the world, but Aldana should be able to get it done. Aldana also does spend a little bit of time in Texas. That's not going to fucking matter. But the main thing is that Aldana's style of staying on the outside and using her boxing is going to go better over with the crowd. I remember I won some boxing bets a couple of years ago. But the basis was it was a rematch, right? And the first fight took place in Maryland, and the one guy marches forward the entire time, and I thought he won. That they literally score every single round for the more savvy Cuban counterpuncher. Now they rematch in Texas. I tell everybody, yo, this guy's 4-1 because he lost the first time. He'll win this rematch. He marches him down in Texas. He wins every single round in Texas. They're looking at something different. They don't care about that counterpunching. They're looking for aggression. They're looking at that's kind of how traditionally they have been. So Raquel could win this fight. Do what you used to do. I don't think she can anymore. So again, this would be, I'm not going to say dog or pass because she is the dog, but this is a pass or pass, or if you like Aldana by decision, take Aldana by decision.
I think these Mexican fighters, Alexa Grasso, Irene Aldana, when they came over from Invicta, I think they were a little bit overhyped, but I think they're starting to, like, things may be starting to turn the corner. Like, Grasso never looked better than her last time out there. Everything seemed to be on point. Her understanding of distance and management and everything like that. Like, she was a big prospect coming in, and she was kind of trending towards being a flop. I kind of feel similarly about Aldana. And I think Aldana 8,400 on DraftKings. It's like the one thing that you can kind of hang your hat on with her is like her volume is massive. So as long as she doesn't get submitted, like taken down early by Rocky, who is going to try to force that type of game plan, is able to maintain range. She's a lot longer. I think she can pile up some strikes here. We've seen Pennington, obviously, against some of the best fighters on the planet, with GDR and Amanda Nunes, is that her striking defense, not great. She is very, very, very hittable, very slow. I like Aldana in this spot, and I think maybe she could be a little bit sneaky. Like this fight going to decision or no decision, this is plus 215. So like obviously the odds are dictating that this fight probably goes to decision, but I think Aldana could be that type of fighter that scores like 95 to 100 points just on volume alone in this matchup. Maybe I'm wrong. Only time will tell. Anyway, we got to move on to the light heavyweight division. We have Klidson Abreu taking on Smiling Sam Alvey. Klidson Abreu, 8,600, a minus 165 favorite. Sam Alvey is 7,600 and plus 145. Watching Klidson Abreu's debut against Magomed Ankalaev, couple spots. There's only one thing that I worry about, or that when I'm assessing whether Sam Alvey can win a fight. Does his opponent charge in? And when he does, what is his defense like? And like watching Klidson Abreu multiple times throughout that fight, charges in. One time in the first round, I believe, he takes a massive uppercut from Ankalaev. All right, Klidson Abreu, durable from what I saw. Like Ankalaev is, in my opinion, leaps and bounds further along than Sam Alvey at this point, especially. A much better athlete, more paths. But it's there. Sam Alvey could win this fight. The problem is like on DraftKings, Sam Alvey, he could lose a decision victory and like score 9 points. Like he's going to back up. He's not going to be, it's almost impossible to take him down. He's going to back up. He's going to have that left hand cocked. He's trying to throw it right down the pipe, waiting for his opponent to walk in. Klidson Abreu may walk into that, but it's really, really hard to roster him because his floor is next to nothing. But I'm not impressed by what I'm seeing from Klidson Abreu. It's dog or pass for me. What about you?
Yeah, I gotta go with Klidson Abreu. Sam Alvey, like I won't call him a personal friend of mine, but like, yeah, a guy I really like, and we have spent some time together. And how could you not like this guy? But he sets himself up in these situations. He used to fight at 170, right? He tried once upon a time. He was on the Ultimate Fighter at 170. He said it depleted him, so he moves up to 185, and that's where you see him hit his rhythm. The guy's got a big counter left. Takedown defense checks out pretty good. Cardio, never a problem because he doesn't exert himself. Yeah, well, what's there not to like with Sam Alvey? He doesn't do anything until you bum rush him, and then he catches you. And if he doesn't catch you, well, that's the end of it. We've all watched a lot of bad Sam Alvey fights. I mean, fucking boring Sam Alvey fights. And there's also fights with Sam Alvey that should be very boring, but he catches them and he knocks them out. For the most part, though, it's hard to ever have faith in Sam because he stands there, he stares at his opponent, he doesn't throw anything. You're right. If a guy's willing, like Marcin Prachnio is willing to run straight at him with his hands down, yeah, listen, this dude busts you, you're in some serious trouble. But at the same time, like Alex Nicholson, not known for his chin, Sam couldn't take him out. Nate Marquardt, not known for his chin, Sam couldn't take him out. Rashad Evans, not known for his chin, Sam couldn't take him out. Jean Vellante, again, a split decision. And then he loses to Nogueira and Jim Crute. That's a crazy thing. Those are polar opposites, right? You got Nogueira, who's just been around forever and is definitely on the last stop of the Legends Tour. And Sam Alvey's known for a cast iron chin, by the way. Can't knock this fucking guy out. And Lil Nog knocks this guy out. Okay, fair enough. Let's put him against Jim Crute. Jim Crute's the polar opposite of Nogueira. He's not an old savvy veteran. He's a young, super green kid. I really like Jim Crute, but he definitely should have had a little more regional experience before coming to the UFC. And he also knocks out Sam Alvey. So Sam Alvey's cast iron chin, by the way, doesn't hold up at 205. He's a 185er. He's taking great punches at 185. At 205, he's not that same guy. And I remember the time him and I hung out, I asked him, I said, geez, man, you're looking pretty big. How big are you right now? And he was like, oh, fuck, 220 or 218. But he was really like almost ashamed of it. Like, fuck, man, I'm 218. I'm really out of shape. Dude, this is 205. Do you not think these guys walk around at 218? Like, these guys are walking around at 230 and cutting it down to 205. So now he's the small guy, right? He didn't like cutting the weight. He's got 4 kids. He's married. He's one of like the head trainers at Dan Henderson's gym. He's got shit getting in the way. Also, Sam Alvey's not some young kid on the block. He's 33 years old. And so moving up to 205 is a way of I can't cut the weight no more. And, I'm looking to have a couple of fights later in my career. What can you do and he's getting knocked out. Okay, that's a problem. So now at least they give him a guy in Clinton Abreu who does not seem to be like a knockout fighter in the slightest bit. This guy is a submission machine. He's got a submission win over Johnny Walker. He's got a submission win over Leandro Silva. He's got submission wins over Victor Nemkov and Anton Vizigin. It's like, fuck, dude, this guy gets a hold of you. He's going to submit you. But Alvey's got good takedown defense. And Alvey's not exactly known for getting submitted. So could Alvey pose some serious problems to this Clinton Abreu? I do believe so. But here's the one thing, is that when you look back at Alvey, the fight to look out for is Alvey versus Ramazan Ameev, right? So he takes on Ramazan Ameev, and it's out 185 pounds. Alvey comes in at 189. Ameev can't get him down, and Ameev doesn't really want to strike with him. So what does he do, Paul? He pushes him up against the cage, and that's it. Alvey has no ability to get off of the cage. Alvey does not dirty box well. Alvey does not throw knees particularly well. Alvey's not able to dig an underhook in reverse. He literally just sits with his back against the cage and allows it to happen. Ameev fights a really bad fight, but Ameev clearly wins all 3 rounds on the basis of Sam Alvey doesn't do anything, right? So, yeah, Marcin Pracchio runs straight at you. John Vellante runs straight at you. Clinton Abreu, yeah, you're right. You know, him versus Ankalaev, you kind of run at him. Ankalaev, dude, you're a submission guy. What are you going to do? Take this guy down? That's not going to fucking happen. You're going to hold him up against the cage? Nope, that's not going to happen either. But against Alvey, that's more of a realistic game plan. Is bum rush this guy and put him up against the cage. And if you can get him down, your element. But if you can't get him down, don't matter, man. Just hold him up against the cage and work him that way. So I don't love it. But yeah, I think Clinton Abreu, who's the natural 205er, and Paul.
He couldn't even make weight last time out, this bum. 209 came in against Ankalaev. He had 4 weeks to get ready for the fight. Missed weight by 4 pounds. Clinton Abreu. World superstar. Misses weight by 4 pounds, comes in at 209. Technically, you could say he missed weight by 3 pounds. Sure. And he got the little allowance. But yeah, all the same, he broke his nose like in the first round of that fight. It still made a decision against a guy in Ankalaev who is no joke. Missed weight, I get it, but now he's got a full camp coming in. He missed weight at 205. What does that tell you? He's a big fucking dude, right? Sam Alvey, not a big dude. Sam Alvey was missing weight at 185, but he's not missing weight at 205. So you got to give that advantage to Clinton. Also, Clinton, I had the privilege of working the Victor Nemkov fight and that also fight with Anton Vizigin. And it's like, dude, this guy's going to Russia, taking on much better Russian fighters and dusting them on the ground. So the last point, I got to say, my boy Paul Shaughnessy got to get behind this. After he won that last fight, M1 challenge against Vizigin, they gave him his first nickname. He didn't have a nickname. But now he's Clinton the Russian Terror Abreu for his ability to go into Russia and fuck Russians up. And we're worried about him fighting Sam Alvey? Nah, not dog. I'm not worried about that. So I'll say Clinton Abreu gets this one done. What's his ceiling in the UFC? Not very high, but Sam Alvey's ceiling is non-existent. It's a terrible nickname. He just got his ass beat by a Russian in his last fight. Give your head a shake. Anyway, let's move on. We got Jennifer Maia taking on Roxanne Modafferi. 8,200 Maia, minus 135 favorite. Roxanne Modafferi is 8,000 and plus 115. So these two fought obviously back at UFC or at Invicta 15, I believe. It was a 5-round main event. Maia ends up winning rounds 1, 4, and 5 in most people's scorecards. So this is a 3-round fight, 3-round rematch. Roxy was able to, on most people's scorecards, win rounds 2 and 3. So, like, I think, you know, going into that one, I think Maia was like minus 200 favorite or whatever. I think the line's pretty much right here. I think it's pretty much a pick 'em in my books anyway. I could see it really going either way. Not a fight that I really want to attack on DraftKings, just with, you know, Maia's decent enough. You know, there could be some takedowns for Modafferi here, but like Maia was actually landing some takedowns in their first matchup between the two of them as well. So I think it's really, really hotly contested. The biggest advantage being Maia on the feet. So I think that it's right that she's the favorite here. but it's a fight that I'm probably just going to stay away from altogether. What about you?
Yeah. That's the thing. I've kind of painted myself in a corner. I will never bet Roxanne Modafferi. I can't do it. I love watching her fight. I think she's one of the greatest characters in the game, and there's no doubt I'd like to root for her. But no, I'm not gonna.
You didn't get a slice of her
dollars on her.
You didn't get a slice of her against Antonina?
Well, okay, so that was a spot we went on the show and we were openly like, listen, Antonina is a one-dimensional kickboxer, and this is Roxanne's fight to win. We boast about it on the show. I go to bet it. My balls literally sucked right inside of my body, Paul Shaughnessy. I couldn't fucking do it. I could not do it. Like, the price was right. The matchup was right. I watched the fight and I fucking kicked myself the whole time, but it's like, I can't do it. Yeah. She's so unathletic. And she's 36. She's got 40 fights under her belt. She's been around the game. Again, a total fan favorite. But like, how in your right mind could you get behind her and believe, she's gonna? But the one thing she has that this developing weight class of untalented fighters doesn't have is a legitimate ground game. She has a legitimate ground game. She can rely on that. Didn't work against Senyara because Senyara Eubanks she got a good ground game too. But if she's able to get a hold of you and take you to the ground, you're in trouble. And that's the thing with Jennifer Maia, is that when you watch them fight the first time around, that's a 3-round fight. It's Roxy all day. She wins 2 and 3. That's her decision. Jennifer Maia, she got bad takedown defense. Now, mind you, Liz Carmouche is a good takedown fighter. She really is. But it's effortless. Yeah, at least she's got to work for it a little bit against other fighters. Against Maia, we know she's a Muay Thai practitioner. She's a stand-up fighter. She's a girl that's got a little bit of size for the division, but she's also 5'4". So how much size does she realistically have? She's a shoot box fighter. She's aggressive. She'll get in front of you and she'll beat you up. But what we're seeing is who else is a shoot box fighter? Is a Cyborg. And that style, it works on everybody. It really does. I march for it and I beat them up. But as the level of the game starts to progress, there'll be somebody that'll take you down, or there'll be someone that'll use that aggression against you. And, in her case, she gets caught by Nunez. We don't know what the ground game thing's like, but it'll be interesting seeing her and Felicia Spencer, because that's literally only Felicia Spencer's only thing is the ground game. So going back to Maia, I'm sure she's worked on her ability to stuff takedowns and survive on the ground, but ultimately surviving on the ground is all she does once a fight does hit the ground. And this is 5 rounds. Again, I'm going to go with Maia. Maia showed to have a better gas tank. She is a 5-round fighter. And one thing about Jennifer Maia that everybody should know, this girl is a really slow starter. And that's not a big deal when you're fighting 5 rounds, but it is everything when you're fighting a 3-round fight, especially because this is her last 6 wins. Diana Silva, majority. Vanessa Porto, unanimous. Roxanne, split. That Agnieszka, it's a Polish name. Our boy Rob, shout out Rob. He'd be able to pronounce it, I'm sure. But decision. Liz Carmouche, decision. Alexis Davis, decision. She can't bust a grape. So if you're not going to go and finish your opponent and you're a slow starter, you're always going to be fighting uphill. And I think that's where Roxanne could give her trouble. Roxanne just needs to get those early takedowns, take her down, beat her on the ground. The thing is, I don't trust Roxanne. I can't trust Roxanne. I'm never going to trust Roxanne. And whereas I do see this as a potential situation where you can go out there and get an underdog that gave, a good account of herself, she's plus 115, man. It's very justifiable to take her against Shevchenko. We sat there and said,
when you're getting
bet this
3-4
against
to 1.
Shevchenko. The price is right. The price is right.
Yeah, the price here seems completely fine.
Roxanne a shot, but this is not it.
All right, we got Ray Borg taking on Gabriel Silva. Gabriel Silva, for or people who don't know, brother of Eric Silva. Interesting. Think about all of the lost potential there. Either way, we got Ray Borg, 9,300 minus 225 favorite. Gabriel Silva, 6,900 and plus 185. Ray Borg, man, for a guy who had seemingly all of the talent in the world, just a real great prospect at 125 pounds, his inability to make that weight class, and his style moving up to 135, and then even on his last fight, missing weight at 135. He came in at 137, so it's classified as a catch weight fight against Casey Kenny. Super, super close fight, no doubt. Some people thought that Borg won either way. It was razor close, and I think that is a real telltale sign for his trajectory at 135 pounds. His style and his frame and his size at this weight class just doesn't work. If he was if he was a technical striker who's able to bounce in and out, all right, then your speed kind of helps. But it's like now he's going to have to take on bigger guys every single time that he's at this weight class. I think his wrestling top game and everything that made him great at 125 is going to be a hindrance for him at 135. Against Gabriel Silva, maybe it doesn't really matter. I think Borg can probably get some takedowns here, but I'm not. I would love, like, if it was like 2 years ago and we saw this line, newcomer taking on Ray Borg, one of the best prospects in the division, like, we'd be jumping all over this minus 225. But this guy's different. I know he's got a lot of other things going on in his life and stuff, so there's distractions, and so on and so forth. So nothing's easy, but it's really hard to back Ray Borg as such a big favorite. He's gonna have to score for 93 points there. He's gonna have to go above and beyond. Like, he's gonna have to land tons of takedowns, lots of transitions. I'm just not feeling paying up for him on DraftKings 9,300, and I'm weary about minus 225. Maybe you can change my mind.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Ray Borg is you often talk about guys that are starting to wander into untrustworthy waters. Fuck, man, this guy's starting to get to that point. I mean, Ray Borg's a guy that at 125 he was untrustworthy on the scales. Like, is he even going to make the weight? Probably not. And then he pulls out of so many fights. And you can make some excuses for the guy, like, oh, dude, Conor McGregor put a dolly through a bus window, and that's what scratched him off the fight. And then, his kid got sick. So it's like that 100% is going to take you out of your element and force you on the sideline. But there's just a lot of fights where it's like you don't know where this guy's at. And yeah, he had good size for flyweight in the sense that, like, he wasn't a small guy. He was strong. He was able to take guys down and, like, physically toss them around a little bit. But he's 5'4". He's limited. So now you move him up to 135, right? Okay, you know what? We're getting rid of 125. He's going to come up to 135. He struggled to make weight at 125. Dude, he fucking missed weight against Casey Keeney by like 2 pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, are you kidding me? 137.8? What the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Why can you not make the weight? That's a serious problem. That's either someone's body shutting down or he just doesn't care. Or how many guys move up a weight class and miss weight, And those guys, it didn't go good for them. Johnny Hendricks did it. It didn't go good for him. Anthony Johnson did it against Vitor Belfort, and then he seriously had to work his way back into the UFC. But certainly on that night, it wasn't going good for him. So that's all shit that's worrisome when you're Ray Borg. Another thing that you got to worry about is that Gabriel Silva's last 2 fights come at 145 pounds.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
He just literally fought Jake Heffernan in the LFA co-main at 145 pounds. Does he look out of place? No, he doesn't look out of place. So now he's going to come down to 135, whereas you've got Borg coming up to 135. And what that tells me is even though they're both 5'4", and they are both 5'4", this kid's going to be sick. And this kid's going to be sick, and he's going to be a problem for Borg, who seemed to have infinite cardio, but now you're seeing he's got to deal with bigger guys. He's tiring down. He's not having his way anymore. He's a hammer. The guy's always been a hammer. He comes at you. He takes you down. He beats on you. There has not been a whole lot of times where Ray Borg has taken a beating and is able to come back from that. So it makes you think, geez, personal problems, injuries, moves up a weight class. He's got a lot of issues running around him. Why would you want to back this guy? Thing with Gabriel Silva is that he's still kind of an unknown. Yeah, he's Eric Silva's brother. You would have more insight to this because you're the baby of your family. What's the age difference between you and your oldest sibling?
My oldest sister's 8 years older than me.
8 years older, right. So Eric Silva's 11 years older than his brother Gabriel Silva. Do you think they were close growing up? Do you think this is like, I don't know. I don't, they could not be related for all I care. It doesn't make a difference to me. They don't even fight the same. This kid likes to grapple.
Even with
his brother likes to fucking swing bombs. So they're not the same fighter. They're at the same gym. There's an 11-year gap between the two of them, and Eric Silva's a total busted prospect. Mm-hmm. So to think that Gabriel's some world beater, I don't think so. No, 4 fights back. Oh, here's another thing, a massive concern, okay? This kid turns pro in 2011, fought once. He fought once in 2012. He fought once in 2013, once in 2014, once 2015. He takes 2016 off. He fights once in 2017. He takes 2018 off, and he has fought once so far in 2019. Paul, he's been pro for 8 years. You know what his record is? 7-0. What the fuck is that? So this guy is also massively untrustworthy. I couldn't get behind him. The money line's right for Borg. The DK line is not right. So I would say if you're going to take a shot, I would back Borg in this spot just because he's more proven. He's got the experience. He's got at least a good camp where he doesn't have to think about. The other thing with Casey Kinney, you got to remember, that was the third opponent that they gave Borg, right? So you're trying to get ready for what? Kyler Phillips and some other putts, and then all of a sudden you get Casey Kinney. He's moving up a weight class, and it was Kyler Phillips and Pingwan Liu. You go from them to fighting Casey. So I'm going to make an excuse for him. I'm going to say here's a guy that hadn't fought since Demetrius Johnson beat him in a 5th round almost 3 years ago, right? He's got personal problems because of his kid. He's got the McGregor thing. He's got a couple injuries that are nagging at him. Now he moves up a weight class. 2 opponents fall out. He gets a third guy. He loses to Casey. It's a bad look. This is his chance to get back on. And I don't think he's out managed by Ali, but he might be, because I thought I saw Ali say something like, don't count this kid out. He's back on track, blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, Ali managing you should not change your perspective on a fight whatsoever, but it should, motherfucker. It should, because all these clients are fucking crushing. So keep it in mind.
We got Jin Soo Sun taking on Mario Bautista. Jin Soo Sun, 9,100 minus 210 favorite. Mario Bautista, 7,100 and a plus 175 underdog. Who you got?
Yeah, this is one that I'll fully admit I'm going to have to just look over it a little bit more. I like Bautista, MMA lab guy. He's coming off a loss to Corey Sandhagen, but hey, I don't care about that kid. Like, don't matter to me. At least you went in there and you did the thing, and he scored a takedown on him for whatever it's worth. But again, he's very inexperienced. He's 26 years old. This is a prime example. A friend of mine had this conversation earlier today. I'm watching a Contender Series last night. These guys, they're in too deep too soon. They need some fights under their belts. They need to be able to grow. That Louis Jourdain or Charles Jourdain, that fought Des Green a month ago. He's an exact example. He's like 22 years old, 23 years old. He needs to fight some more fights, get experience, work on the takedown defense, get a couple bumps and bruises along the way, grow, and then come to the UFC. But the UFC says, we need a guy short notice on a week. So they signed some guy from 4-1. Same thing with that kid from King of the Cage. That big story last week with Butler trying to get his release. The promoter, everyone's against Terry, right? Everyone's against Terry Treble. Whoa, what a bad promoter. Hold on to it. Dude, he made so much sense when he was like, the kid is not ready. Everyone says I'm fucking him over by ruining his dream because I'm not releasing him. What's going to happen? He's going to go over there. He's going to get beat up. He's going to be back in these King of the Cage shows, not selling any tickets, fighting it out. Like, grow them and get them to that level. I almost feel like the same thing with Bautista. Fuck, he's 26 years old. He's got 6 pro fights, And, we need a guy. So you sign him and he fights Sandhagen. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Sandhagen was supposed to fight John Lineker. He's getting ready to fight John Lineker. He's already 2-0 in the UFC, coming off a win over Iri Alcantara. And Mario Bautista has to step up to the plate. I don't like that shit, but it also stunts the growth. I don't know how good the kid could be because, he's not making those steps. So he could be a lot more talented than I'm giving him credit for. I don't really know. Flip side to that, his opponent, Jin Soo Sun, he's a Korean zombie guy. And his debut, he gets Peter Yan. Like, neither of these guys have had an easy path so far, but he goes to decision. It's an awesome fight as far as I'm concerned. I think it was fight of the night, but he gave an awesome account of himself, and he's a plus 685 dog. Yeah. So it's like, okay, are you good, or did you have one good performance against one good guy? You're a big dog. You're a short notice. It made it look good. I don't know. Bautista, meanwhile, are you really good? But you drew Sandhagen late. You took him down. He just armbarred you after you got him down. I'm having trouble gauging how good either guy really is. And so then looking at it, Juice-On, he's a 2-1 favorite. That's an easy fade. But I haven't done enough that I feel confident in saying this is a fadeable fight. Fade this guy and move on. So for the time being, I'm seeing value in Bautista, but just because this is a closer fight than 2-1 would suggest. So count me in as a pass. If anything changes, I'll be the first one to let you guys know.
And finally, we got Domingo Pilarte taking on Felipe Colares. Dom Pilarte, 9,400 and a minus 335 favorite. Colares is 6,800 and plus 275. Who you got?
I mean, listen, watching Pilarte is an absolute treat. I mean, he's like 6 feet tall and he fights 135 pounds. Oh my God. I love it. I love seeing that kind of stuff. But the also thing is that when you're that big, you've got massive advantages and you also have massive disadvantages. Only in Pilarte's case, dude, the guy can actually wrestle. Yeah, his striking is going to be his go-to on the simple fact that he stays on the outside. He's so tall. He'll be able to just eat you away with the jabs, the kicks, stick you to the outside, and, kind of pick away at you, so to speak. Vince Morales on The Ultimate Fight, or on Dana White's Contender Series, he gives him a go. And Morales has proven to be not great. He's all right. He's serviceable. And Morales gives him a go early, but once Pilarte gets him on the ground, he's got a slick little ground game. So you look into it more, and it's like, oh, dude, of course, his head coach is UFC veteran Daniel Pineda. And Daniel Pineda is a submission machine. But if there's one thing more impressive about Pineda, he's a Texas boy. This is a Texas boy of a Texas gym. Pilarte fits that exact same mold. So why is he on this card? Because they're looking for the Texas guy. Hasn't had a fight since his fight with Morales, because I think he pulled out of a fight with, I want to say, Brian Kelleher with an injury. But all the same, he hasn't fought in 1 year. That's a little bit worrisome. But he's 29 years old. I don't think he's old by no means. I think maybe the little bit of time off could be okay. This is the reason I'm mainly picking. Is if this just stays a stand-up battle between him and Corrales, although I do think it's kind of close, I give the advantage towards Pilarte just because of sheer size. He'd be able to stay on the outside, he'd be able to pick him off. But Pilarte's got he's got an underrated ground game. You know what I mean? His best work is when he's on top of you. He's able to get your back so long, he can body triangle you all day, and we see his submission game is pretty good, Got some decent submission wins on the regional scene, and then obviously his coming out party over Vince Morales on a Contender Series, a nasty little submission, right? So when you look at Felipe Corrales, kind of close on the feet, I'm going to give the advantage to Pilarte. Well, how's it on the ground? I got a little Brazilian here out of Team Nogueira. Used to fight at 145. He might be a little bit bigger. But ultimately, it's like go watching his fight with Geraldo de Freitas. I think he gives up 6 fucking takedowns or something. He's getting taken down rather easily by a guy that probably shouldn't be taking you down 6 times. So it's a close enough fight. But again, he gets taken down 6 times. I looked at the numbers yesterday. Something like 11 passes officially on Fight Metrics. That's how many. So his ground game is not great.
Yeah, it's awful.
And he gets almost. Yeah, it's a little over 2-1 on the significant strikes department. So he's getting taken down. He gets beat up. You watch the fight. He's taken down. He gets beat up on the ground. He gets a couple takedowns of his own, but don't matter. And he's getting styled on the ground. That's what you don't see with Pilarte. You see more 6 feet tall, long rangey guy, going to stick it out on the outside. Pilarte is also a southpaw, but I think he can beat him standing long enough for Corrales to make a mistake and then dump this motherfucker on the ground. Once you get him on the ground, that's when you'll see the best Pilarte, and that's what I'd like. So another Texas boy, give me the Texas win, and I'll take Domingo to start the card off.
Yeah, I like Dom Pilarte as well. The grappling is a big advantage for him, but don't forget, him versus Morales, it was a hell of a banger in round 1 too.
It was, yeah.
He got dropped. He got dropped hard by Vince Morales in that fight. So,
yeah.
The chin may not be as great as we think it is, but Colares, this is a fight that is designed for Dom, local guy on the local card, to go out there, get everyone fired up early on in the night. I think he's reasonably, I think he is very deservedly the big favorite here, but the line's starting to get out of hand a little bit for my taste, just in the fact that he's kind of unproven. At minus 335, I would just like a more proven commodity than somebody who got dropped by Vince Morales in round 1. Call me crazy. Call me crazy for that. I think he's got the the grappling advantage, no doubt, but I don't feel great about parlaying this thing up and adding it to all your parlays. Shit happens in MMA, and we're talking about low level guys for sure.
Well, that's exactly it. We got low level guys here, curtain jerking on what is kind of a low level card. And are you positive on any guys? Do you know what you're going to get? No. The one thing that I did think about though is that with Vince Morales, Vince Morales also just flash dropped Benito Lopez on the weekend, and it didn't put him away either. But the guy kind of had some decent pow in his hand as far as just a one quick drop. But looking at Felipe Corrales is he's a submission guy as well. 5 of his 8 wins are by submission. The only time he's ever knocked a guy out, it was 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And the only other time he's finished a guy it's a TKO due to retire. So essentially, the guy was just like, yeah, I'm done getting hit. I'm going to fucking go home now. So it's not as if we're talking about Pollart as in like, oh, he got knocked out. Is that he got dropped. And he got dropped by a guy that's considerably got more power than the opponent he's coming up with. But you're 100% right. We're looking at low-level fighters on the first card. You should never be super certain of any of these guys unless you train with Corrales and it turns out he has no ACL. Then maybe you would be considering going heavier on one of these guys. So that's about it. To keep the streak alive, it's a bad streak. Dude, I'm getting fucking crushed on the second fight of the night. I don't know what it is. I can't figure it out. It goes back to Whitmire, and it goes back to Austrian Wonder Boy, and it goes back to last week's card, the second thing.
So Jinsu Sun versus Mario Bautista. Isn't that the second card?
Maybe I should just walk away, Paul.
So which one's the second fight on this card?
Oh, well, I got it listed as Bautista versus Jinsu Sun.
Yeah, same here. Okay.
Yeah, but...
Which is one that you basically didn't have a pick for. I like Jinsu Sun. I think he's going to pull it off here.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Just high octane.
To give a quick recap.
He had high end. All right, yeah. Just run through final thoughts for you.
Okay, yeah. So my final thoughts are I'm going to go with Rothwell VS Anjos. I'm going to go with Walt Harris. I'm going to go with Juan Adams, James Vick, Alex Hernandez, Andrei Arlovski, Steven Peterson, Irene Aldana, Klitzen Abreu, God damn it, Roxanne Modafferi, Ray Borg, Mario Bautista, although that could fucking go either way. I'll have to look at it again. And then Domingo Pollart. In terms of the card, it looks kind of on the safe side, but you know, what is safe in this sport, so it's going to be hard. And then the last thing on DraftKings, just because I realize I'm on the phone, so we haven't maybe dived in purely on the DraftKings standpoint as much as we do when we're like in studio. But just like as a quick thing, Arlovski for $7,200, like fuck man, I don't think he finishes Rothwell. I really don't think he finishes Rothwell. But for $7,200, like he's one of those plays that if he goes out there and just manages to squeak up a decision, he could get 70 points. It could be worth it. Peterson at $7,400. Again, Bruce Leroy could defeat himself. Peterson goes for it, and then that could be okay. Vick 7,700. Those would be 3 sub 8,000 plays that I don't mind. In terms of the guys that I'd be willing to spend money for, Domingo Pollart is way too expensive, but he's at least got the style that he could go out there and get that finish for you. Walt Harris, again, one of those guys that's going down. You're either going to take the 7,500 on Olynyk, great punt by the way, or you're going to go with Walt Harris for the 87, and then you know, what do? You got money on the table. You got 9,600 on the table if you're to play those guys. Not that I'm saying you're going to play that exact lineup, but this is the kind of card that you could save some money. And when you look at the high-end guys with the high price tags, nobody jumps at you as I love that. Do you want Jinsu Sim? Do you want Ben Rothwell? Do you love Alex Hernandez or Bruce Leroy? Those are the upper echelon guys this card, and they're not exactly ones that you trust. So I could see this card as being the kind of one where you fade those guys to the top, you get those mid-range plays, and those are the ones that pay off for you.
Thank you very much, Cody, for being on the line.
Thanks for having me on, despite me not being there. Also, this noose, I think I'm going to take it off. You know, I get it, Aspen Ladd. Here's my real last point, Paul, and then we can totally wrap this show off. Jermaine Durand to me is a dirty fucking fighter. She should be banned. She punched Holly Holm twice after the bell. And then, against my poor baby Aspen Ladd, I counted it, Paul. I counted it. 16 seconds after the bell is when she hit her. Total fucking bullshit, man. Total bullshit.
You're just a bitter bus. You're just a bitter bus at this point. Just accept it.
Yeah, I've accepted it.
Anyway, that wraps up for us this week. Sorry that it's not our regular format. Frankly, I don't want to make any excuses. This was incredibly difficult for me to try to do this show. So hopefully we're back to him being in studio, me being able to interject when he talks, so on and so forth. Not exactly the greatest format, but hey, we're getting you guys a show. And we're trying to get it out to you guys every single week. So he wasn't able to be in this week. We had to make some concessions. So for Cody Saftic, I am Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
MMA experience! Experience!